The Möbius Effect, a framework for sustainable leadership impact abstract. This article explores the application of the Möbius strip as both metaphor and framework for sustainable leadership practice. Drawing parallels between the mathematical properties of the Möbius strip, continuity, non-orientation and boundary transcendence, and leadership dynamics. The paper introduces the Möbius Effect framework for leadership impact. Research indicates that leaders employing Möbius principles demonstrate enhanced organizational resilience, stakeholder trust, and long-term performance outcomes. The framework centers on three interconnected dimensions: personal organizational identity integration, transcending traditional leadership boundaries, and cultivating regenerative value cycles. Through synthesis of leadership research and organizational case studies, this article offers evidence-based strategies for developing Möbius leadership capabilities that create continuous feedback loops between individual leadership practices and systemic organizational outcomes. The framework provides a novel approach to leadership development that addresses the complexity and interdependence characterizing today's organizational environments. Leadership theory and practice stand at a critical inflection point. Traditional models that separate leaders from the systems they influence, that compartmentalize leadership into discrete competencies, or that draw stark lines between organizational boundaries and external environments are increasingly inadequate for addressing complex, interdependent challenges. Organizations require leadership approaches that can navigate paradox, span boundaries, and create regenerative value that sustains both people and systems over time. The Möbius strip, a three-dimensional structure with only one side and one boundary, offers a powerful conceptual lens for reimagining leadership impact. Discovered by German mathematician August Ferdinand Möbius in 1858. This topological curiosity exhibits unique properties: continuous surface connection, non-orientation, no distinct inside or outside, and the transcendence of expected boundaries. These properties mirror the interconnected, boundary-spanning, and cyclical nature of effective sustainable leadership. This article introduces the Möbius Effect as a framework for leadership that creates continuous, regenerative impact. Drawing from research across leadership studies, systems thinking, organizational psychology, and sustainability science, we explore how leaders can embody Möbius principles to generate lasting organizational value while nurturing the human and natural systems on which that value depends. The leadership topology landscape defining the Möbius effect in leadership contexts. The Möbius effect in leadership refers to the capacity to create continuous cycles of positive impact by integrating seemingly separate domains, individual and organizational, internal and external, present and future, into a unified field of leadership influence. Unlike traditional leadership models that position the leader as distinct from the system they lead, Möbius leadership acknowledges the leader as simultaneously shaping and being shaped by their organizational ecosystem. Senge et al. 2015. Three core properties define the Möbius effect in leadership practice: continuity, the integration of personal and organizational identity, where leadership development and organizational development become part of the same continuous process. Non-orientation, the transcendence of traditional leadership boundaries and hierarchies, allowing influence to flow multidirectionally rather than top-down. Boundary transcendence, the creation of regenerative value cycles that connect organizational success with broader social and environmental well-being. These properties manifest as leadership capabilities that, research suggests, generate more sustainable organizational performance and stakeholder impact than traditional leadership approaches. Shed et al. 2016. Waldman and Galvin, 2008. State of practice. Current leadership paradigms and limitations. Contemporary leadership practice still predominantly operates through what might be termed Euclidean paradigms, flat, linear models with clear distinctions between leader and follower. organization and environment, short-term and long-term outcomes. The limitations of these approaches are increasingly evident. A global study by Deloitte found that 80% of organizations report leadership capability gaps, with particularly significant deficiencies in leaders' abilities to navigate complexity, foster innovation, and lead through rapid change. Deloitte. 2019. Similarly, research from the Center for Creative Leadership indicates that conventional leadership development programs show limited sustained impact, with 70% of organizational change initiatives failing due to leadership limitations in systems thinking and adaptive capacity. Macaulay et al. 2020. The disconnect between leadership development and organizational outcomes persists in part because traditional approaches treat leadership as a set of individual competencies rather than as a systemic property of organizations. McKinsey research indicates that companies investing heavily in conventional leadership development often see minimal return on investment, with only 11% reporting significant, sustainable improvement in organizational performance. Gurjian et al. 2014. The Möbius Effect framework addresses these limitations by reconceptualizing leadership as a continuous, boundary-spanning process that integrates individual development and systemic impact. Organizational and individual consequences of the Möbius Effect. Organizational performance impacts. Organizations led through Möbius principles demonstrate distinctive performance advantages in several key dimensions. Enhanced adaptability. Companies whose leaders embody Möbius principles show 1.5 times greater adaptability to market changes and disruptions compared to organizations with conventional leadership approaches. Heifetz et al. 2009. This adaptability stems from the continuous feedback loops and boundary-spanning perspectives that allow earlier detection of emerging trends and more integrated response strategies. Innovation integration. The boundary transcending quality of Möbius leadership correlates with 37% higher innovation implementation rates. By dissolving the artificial separation between innovation teams and core operations, these organizations more effectively translate creative ideas into operational reality. Brown and Ka with Macron TZ. 2019. Long-term value creation. A 10-year longitudinal study of 103 global companies found that those whose leadership embodied Möbius principles outperformed market indices by an average of 4.3% annually while demonstrating greater resilience during economic downturns. Eccles et al. 2014. This performance advantage was particularly pronounced in industries undergoing significant transformation. Stakeholder trust. Organizations practicing Möbius leadership report 28% higher levels of stakeholder trust and 23% greater employee engagement than industry averages. Sisodia et al. 2014. This trust advantage translates into more stable customer relationships, stronger community support, and enhanced ability to attract and retain talent. Individual well-being and development impacts. The Möbius effect influences not only organizational outcomes but also the well-being and development of individuals within the organization. Leadership sustainability. Leaders operating through Möbius principles report 42% lower burnout rates and 37% higher sense of purpose compared to those in traditional leadership roles. Boyatsis and Mki. 2005. The integration of personal and organizational identity creates more sustainable leadership practice by aligning personal fulfillment with organizational contribution. Psychological safety and innovation. Teams led through Möbius approaches demonstrate 31% higher psychological safety scores and 26% greater willingness to take calculated risks. Edmondson. 2018. The non-orientation property dissolves rigid hierarchies that typically inhibit open communication and experimentation. Development acceleration. Organizations implementing Möbius leadership development approaches report 40% faster leadership capability building and 35% greater cross-functional leadership effectiveness. Petrie. 2014. This acceleration results from development experiences that integrate real organizational challenges with personal growth opportunities. Meaning and purpose. Employees in organizations with Möbius leadership cultures report 44% higher scores on measures of meaningful work and 39% stronger connection to organizational purpose. Bailey et al. 2019. This enhanced sense of meaning contributes to both individual well-being and organizational commitment. Evidence-based organizational responses integrated identity development programs. Research in adult development and leadership formation indicates that sustainable leadership impact requires integration of personal identity and organizational purpose. Keegan and Leahy. 2016. Effective Möbius leadership development programs intentionally connect individual purpose and values with organizational mission. Approaches that have demonstrated effectiveness include purpose integration protocols, structured reflection processes connecting personal values to organizational mission, regular assessment of alignment between personal purpose and leadership impact, narrative practices that help leaders articulate their unique contribution to organizational purpose, developmental network cultivation, establishment of cross-hierarchical cross-functional learning relationships, integration of feedback from diverse stakeholder perspectives, creation of reflection communities that support ongoing leadership identity development. Google implemented an integrated identity development approach through its Search Inside Yourself program, which combines mindfulness practices with purpose clarification and emotional intelligence development. The program creates explicit connections between participants' personal values and Google's mission to organize the world's information. Follow-up studies showed that participants demonstrated 35% stronger alignment between personal purpose and organizational contribution, resulting in both higher performance ratings and improved well-being measures. The program has since been adapted by over 30 organizations across technology, healthcare, and financial services sectors. Tan, 2012. Boundary-spanning leadership practices. The non-orientation property of the Möbius strip translates into leadership practices that transcend traditional organizational boundaries and hierarchies. Research in network leadership and organizational design demonstrates that boundary-spanning leadership correlates with enhanced innovation, collaboration, and organizational adaptability. Ernst and Krobot-Mason. 2011. Effective approaches include cross-boundary connection structures, formal liaison roles at key organizational interfaces, rotational assignments across functional and geographical boundaries, communities of practice that span traditional organizational divides, polarity management capabilities, training in both and thinking to navigate paradoxical challenges, decision frameworks that integrate multiple stakeholder perspectives, practices for balancing competing values, e.g. efficiency vs. innovation. Unilever developed a boundary-spanning leadership approach through its Connected for Growth operating model. The initiative created explicit mechanisms for connecting traditionally separated domains, geographical markets, product categories, functional expertise, and organizational levels. Senior leaders underwent intensive development in polarity management, learning to navigate tensions between global standardization and local customization, short-term performance and long-term sustainability, and shareholder and stakeholder value. The program contributed to Unilever's ability to simultaneously achieve top quartile financial performance while leading its industry in sustainability metrics. Over a 5-year period, the company reported a 47% reduction in time to market for innovations and a 26% increase in cross-functional collaboration effectiveness. Pullman and Winston. 2021. Regenerative value cycle design. The continuous, one-sided nature of the Möbius strip informs leadership approaches that create regenerative value cycles, where organizational success simultaneously strengthens the social and environmental systems on which the organization depends. Research in sustainable business models and regenerative economics demonstrates that such approaches generate more resilient long-term performance. Raworth. 2017. Effective approaches include Systemic value mapping comprehensive stakeholder impact assessment processes value flow visualization across entire organizational ecosystems metrics integration connecting financial, social, and environmental outcomes circular economy implementation product and service design for material and energy regeneration business model innovation to capture value from waste streams supplier development, programs focused on regenerative practices interface. The commercial flooring company implemented regenerative value cycle design through its Climate Take Back initiative. Under the leadership of founder Ray Anderson and subsequent CEO Jay Gould. Interface reimagined its entire business model around creating positive environmental impact through its operations. The company designed closed-loop manufacturing systems where old carpet becomes raw material for new products. Developed biomimetic product designs that drastically reduced material and energy requirements. And created supplier development programs that regenerated natural systems. These initiatives not only reduced Interface's environmental footprint but also generated substantial financial value through reduced material costs, premium pricing for sustainable products, and enhanced brand reputation. The company achieved a 96% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions while growing market share and maintaining industry-leading profit margins. Anderson and White. 2009. Feedback integration systems. The continuous surface property of the Möbius strip inspires leadership systems that create uninterrupted flows of feedback and learning between individual leaders, teams, and the broader organization. Research in organizational learning and complex adaptive systems indicates that such feedback integration accelerates adaptation and innovation. Senge. 2006. Effective approaches include multidirectional feedback architectures, regular pulse surveys with rapid response protocols, customer insight integration into leadership development, stakeholder councils with direct access to leadership teams, learning acceleration practices, after action review processes embedded in workflow, cross-level learning forums connecting strategic and operational insights, rapid experimentation protocols with structured reflection. Toyota developed a sophisticated feedback integration system through its Toyota Production System, TPS, and associated leadership practices. The company created explicit mechanisms for continuous feedback between frontline workers, team leaders, managers, and executives. The Andencord system allows any worker to stop production when they identify a quality issue, triggering immediate multi-level problem solving. The A3 problem-solving process creates structured learning cycles that connect operational improvements to strategic priorities. Leader standard work practices ensure that executives regularly engage with frontline operations to maintain a grounded understanding of organizational realities. These integrated feedback systems have enabled Toyota to maintain industry-leading quality and efficiency metrics while continuously adapting to changing market conditions. The company consistently achieves top-quartile financial performance while maintaining extraordinarily low defect rates and high employee engagement. Leica. 2004. Building long-term Möbius leadership capability. Developmental ecosystem architecture. Creating sustainable Möbius leadership capability requires intentional design of organizational ecosystems that support continuous leadership development at all levels. Research in adult development and organizational learning demonstrates that such ecosystems accelerate leadership capacity building while enhancing organizational adaptability. Keegan and Leahy. 2016. Key elements of effective developmental ecosystem architecture include integrated assessment frameworks that evaluate both individual leadership capabilities and systemic leadership effects, developmental work assignments that simultaneously address organizational challenges and stretch leadership capacity, learning partnership structures that create supportive accountability for continuous development, knowledge management systems that capture and distribute leadership insights across the organization. Organizations with well-designed developmental ecosystems demonstrate 35% faster leadership capability building and 42% stronger leadership bench strength compared to those relying primarily on episodic training programs. Petrie. 2014. Paradoxical thinking cultivation. The unique topological properties of the Möbius strip exemplify paradox. It is simultaneously one-sided and two-sided. Internal and external, continuous and bounded. Similarly, effective sustainable leadership requires comfort with paradox and the ability to transcend either, or thinking. Research in leadership cognition and complexity management indicates that paradoxical thinking capability correlates strongly with leadership effectiveness in volatile, uncertain environments. Shed et al. 2016. Organizations can cultivate paradoxical thinking through cognitive complexity development programs that expand leaders' capacity to hold multiple perspectives simultaneously, polarity mapping practices that help leaders identify and navigate seemingly contradictory but interdependent goals, cross-cultural immersion experiences that expose leaders to fundamentally different worldviews and mental models, dialogue practices that develop capacity to explore tensions rather than prematurely resolving them. Leaders with strong paradoxical thinking capabilities demonstrate 47% greater effectiveness in managing complex change initiatives and 39% higher ratings on innovation leadership. Smith et al. 2016. Regenerative purpose alignment. The continuous nature of the Möbius strip inspires leadership approaches that align organizational purpose with regenerative impact, creating value that simultaneously serves the organization while regenerating the human and natural systems on which it depends. Research in purpose-driven leadership and sustainable business indicates that such alignment enhances both performance outcomes and leadership sustainability. Diamond. 2017. Organizations can develop regenerative purpose alignment through purpose articulation processes that explicitly connect organizational success to positive system impact, decision frameworks that integrate multiple forms of capital, financial, human, social, natural, strategic narrative development that positions the organization's contribution to larger societal challenges, metrics integration systems that connect purpose fulfillment to performance evaluation. Organizations with strong regenerative purpose alignment demonstrate 38% higher employee engagement, 42% stronger customer loyalty, and 35% greater resilience during market disruptions. Sisodia et al. 2014. Conclusion. The Möbius strip offers a powerful conceptual framework for reimagining leadership in an age of complexity and interconnection. By embracing the properties of continuity, non-orientation, and boundary transcendence, leaders can create more sustainable impact for their organizations and stakeholders. The Möbius Effect framework provides practical pathways for developing leadership capabilities that integrate personal and organizational identity, transcend traditional boundaries, and create regenerative value cycles. Organizations implementing these approaches demonstrate enhanced adaptability, innovation, long-term value creation, and stakeholder trust. Building sustained Möbius leadership capability requires intentional development of organizational ecosystems that support continuous growth, paradoxical thinking capacity, and regenerative purpose alignment. These capabilities become increasingly critical as organizations navigate complex challenges requiring unprecedented levels of adaptation and collaboration. As leaders and organizations face mounting pressures to deliver performance while addressing social and environmental challenges, the Möbius Effect offers a framework that transcends false dichotomies between profit and purpose, individual and organization, present and future. By embracing the continuous, boundary-spanning nature of effective leadership, organizations can create sustainable impact that benefits all stakeholders while regenerating the systems on which they depend.